One of the very interesting topics that we come across very often is the concept of payment collection. And we know that how salespeople are very they have to be focused on it. At the same time, this is something that they don't like to do. I'll try to cover this in a very different aspect today. One of the important measures that organizations focus on is called the receivables turnover ratio. So what is the receivables turnover ratio? It actually shows the efficiency of the collection cycle of the organization. Now, is it that simple? Is it just all about putting a lot of people onto the field and make your collections happen? Well, it's not. It doesn't work really like that. Now, receivables turnover ratio is calculated as sales, technically speaking, credit sales divided by average receivables. Now, what it means to say is that how many times has the receivables turned to generate the total credit sales which is there in an organization. For simplicity's sake, every organization considers the sales to be all of it, the sales to be a receivables scenario for some time as a credit sales. Now, take an organization. So let me say that if assuming their sales is 35,000 crores and there is average receivables is 11,000 crores. So what it means is that the receivable turnover is 5 times. 5 times the receivables have turned over to generate this kind of sales. Higher the receivable turnover, higher the number of turns, as we know earlier also when we did inventory turns, the higher the number of turns, it's better for the organization. But is it so easy? Mathematically speaking, what are we talking here? Higher terms here means if you want to have higher receivable turns, you can increase sales or decrease receivables. And you can do both. Now, this doesn't look so easy. Why should a customer with whom you have been trying to do some sales on a particular terms and conditions suddenly start increasing the orders or suddenly start paying you on time? So it's not all about only payment collection terms or something. It gets deep into the business model. A more efficient way to collect receivables would mean a change of a business model. Consider very simple things. Consider a business model of telecom, and we all as consumers are used to two sides of the story. One is known as postpaid and the other is known as prepaid. If you take the postpaid business, here what's happening is there's a credit verification done and there is a limit assigned, and the user, the person to whom credit has been provided, he uses, and based on the usage there is a certain amount of, there's a bill which comes to him on the rates and everything put together, and then payment is made. Now, there's also a payment process where payments are defaulted, so there's a follow-up and all that. If you look at prepaid, what happens here are that there are schemes which are designed or products which are designed, and then the customer first pays for them and then he uses them. So no doubt that this is a far more efficient model than the postpaid. While the postpaid might result in higher customers who have got higher what we call as ARPU in telecom terms, but the prepaid is no doubt a more profitable business for the telecom because your cash is coming in before. So it helps you in the working capital management. If you see the balance sheets and all of most of the Indian telecom companies, you will see that their working capital is negative, largely due to the innovative prepaid business model. Now, one more thing that you can do with the receivables turnover is that what we call as average collection period. Now, we all know that after the goods is dispatched, The payment has to be collected, and there are terms and there are invoices raised with these terms, and there are contracts and all. And very often clients don't pay in time. But if you want to know what has been the average collection period of that particular organization throughout the year, what we do is that divide 365, which is the number of days in a year, by the receivables turnover. And in this particular case, which we have taken here, this is 5. So this becomes then 5735 and 5315, 73 days. Obviously, if the collection period is of 70 days, 73 days, therefore that much of working capital is locked in the company because the collection period is high. Now, if this collection period is reduced by some innovation or working with clients and something to say 30 days or 15 days, or even better, it's all in advance, the stress on the organization is far lesser. So receivable turnover ratio can't be to get it under control or to collect payments on time. It's not all about just putting more pressure on the salesforce and getting it out from the clients, or making a salesperson sit in the client's office and not to budge. I have done that also. For 1.5 days I was sitting and perpetually parked at a client's office to collect a certain payment, but that's not the way. The way is that might be one of the ways, but the right way is to get the contract done in such a manner so that your receivables turns are in control and your payments are in control, and so that at any point of time in your contract you do not extend your average collection period by 30 days. So contracts based on deliveries of large capital goods and all should be made in such a manner that payments keep on coming in from the customer as the work progresses. Now the other side of the story is a business model change. So shifting from a postpaid to a prepaid kind of a model is an indicative way to say that how can you impact the receivables turnover ratio in such a way that you perhaps don't have any receivables left. Now that is a good business model. So focus on the receivables ratio, figure out the business model, understand to increase the receivables turnover ratio as a constant metric. It is more than increasing sales or decreasing receivables or to have a sales force dedicated to it. Form a cross-functional team which relooks at the business model, works with the client, and creates something which is new, unique, and delivers the outcome that is required by the organization. An important metric, but not only a departmental metric. Of course, salespeople must know that collecting receivables is one of the fundamental jobs that they have to do, but things go beyond that.